Chapter 41. No Face. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41. No Face. Ms. Chien was very excited, wishing that the long house and the old lady would fight to the death. Mrs. Xiao looked on coldly, thinking that this niece is really stupid. With Yuan's stupid stepmother around, it's not that she is short of expenses. If she insists on getting things out of hand, the old lady will have more time to pinch her in the future. Gone. Just a single marriage, the old lady can make her fall into a situation beyond redemption. Xie Jiwei raised his head and gave Feng a cool look. The old lady's heart skipped a beat when she saw it, but it was about her interests, and she couldn't back down even a single step. Miss Wei, your mother's dowry is quite a lot, and the one entrusted to you right now is already a lot. I'm worried that you can't take care of it well. Don't think about anything else for now. If something goes wrong, how can you be worthy of your mother's spirit in heaven? Xie Jiwei looked at Feng Shi with a smile that was not a smile. Feng Shi was so angry when she saw her, he slapped the table. Why, you didn't listen to what I said. Grandmother thinks it's so good, so let's do it. Xie Jiwei stroked his sleeves, got up, and sat down in the usual seat slowly. I heard that the granddaughter of the richest man in the previous dynasty, who was rich in wealth, was her grandfather's family plotted against her, and the woman had a strong temper, and seeing that not only was there no hope of getting her family wealth back, but she was also burdened by the money, she was furious and donated tens of trillions of family wealth to the imperial court in exchange for the imperial court's protection. This person is the head of Anyang County who was recorded in history in the previous dynasty, and later married the ancestor of the Chui family. Xie Jiwei's intentions are obvious. Although she is not going to donate her biological mother's dowry in exchange for the court's asylum, she will definitely not make it easier for Feng. At that time, both the parents of the head of Anyang County died, and she lived her whole life, but Xie Jiwei's father was still alive. The grandparents' family has never lost her etiquette in these years, and all the basic necessities of life are fully prepared for her, which shows that the shelter is tight. Her own small private treasury is not even comparable to a few ants, which makes people jealous. She is not an orphan with no roots. She didn't care about it before. One was stupid, and the other was that she didn't think about it. Xiao also can't understand why Xie Jiwei is now like a demon, and insists on taking back her biological mother's dowry. Could it be that she has fallen out with Yuan, and Yuan refuses to subsidize her now? Thinking of this, Xiao stood up to smooth things over. Miss Wei, will your grandmother still harm you? You are a real child. You are only a little older. How can you be so young that you have to take care of a large dowry? Go out and tell people outside to laugh at our family for no reason. Don't say such silly things. If your monthly allowance is not enough, ask your grandmother to subsidize you every month. Feng immediately made a decision. Just take out my monthly bill, 50 taels a month, and give it to Sister Wei. Yes. Xiao immediately responded. Miss Wei is older now, and has more places to spend money, as it should be. However, our family has always advocated frugality, and the girls don't have many monthly schedules. Miss Wei, my son, is about to catch up with those of us who are ants, and we have a lot of money, so we still have to learn to be frugal. The implication is that Xie Jiwei has enough monthly cases now. Don't be dissatisfied anymore. The reason why Xie Jiwei insisted on taking back Chui's dowry was because he didn't follow the family rules and lived too extravagantly. This problem needs to be corrected. Xie Jiwei understood, and so did everyone else. Sister.in.law, Sister Wei is also the eldest daughter of our family. No matter what, we should not be too wronged. My mother and I have not thought carefully. Sister.in.law should take care of Sister Wei more. Xiao smiled. After a while, with some sarcasm, the little girl's family is thinking about getting a dowry for her birth mother for the sake of pocket money. It's not good to spread the word, and it's not bad for the reputation of the girls in the family. Zhao's only thing is to say, Xie Jiwei has no money to spend, why don't you subsidize a little, and stare at the birth mother's dowry all day long, making a fuss, what's the good? It's all her fault. Xia Zhiwei's eyes turned cold. Second aunt, if I guessed correctly, the celestial gauze on you is my mother's dowry, right? Celestial gauze can't be bought with money. My grandparents' my great-uncle was notoriously idle and didn't take the imperial examinations. He studied some ancient books at home all day long and figured out how to make Tianyun yarn. He got a total of 10 bolts of cloth and gave them as dowry to the girls of the Chui family. My mother was married as a dowry. I bought 5 horses, which are orphans, not even in the palace. She raised her sleeves, took a sip from her teacup, and smiled smile. It's no wonder second aunt speaks for grandma like this. She glanced at Mrs. Xiao, with a look of sarcasm, as if to say, I didn't want everyone to be so shameless, since you're shameless, don't blame me for being rude. Xia Zhihui sat on the side with her head down, wishing she could bury her head between her legs. She didn't dare to look up at all, let alone look at her eldest sister. She never dreamed that all the elders in the family would look like this. She felt sorry for her big sister. Everyone looked at Mrs. Xiao. She was wearing a narrow gold satin jacket with a thread of gold and 100 butterflies, wearing a light purple satin jacket, a gown made of sky cloud gauze, and an emerald-flowered crepe skirt. She moved uneasily. Under the refraction of the light, the gauze clothes showed colorful colors, and the dark light shone, making her look like a concubine or fairy. Hey, how could this be Tianyuncha? Xiao blushed before saying a word, and then became angry from embarrassment. I was just thinking that I was an aunt. Anyway, it was your elder, your mother is gone. I'll teach you a few words. If I knew you had such a temper, I wouldn't say it. Sky cloud gauze is as thin as a cicada's wings, as light as a sky cloud, as quiet as a cloud, and as dynamic as a symphony of color. A piece of it costs 10,000 gold. Because the cost is too high, even though it is as beautiful as a sky cloud, the former emperor decreed never to weave it. If it weren't for this, she wouldn't be an orphan. What would second aunt's gauze dress be if it wasn't made of Tianyun gauze? Xia Zhiwei sneered, and looked at Feng Shi. I was born as a son and daughter. If I can't keep my mother, how can I be worthy of being the son of man? I hope the old lady will make it happen. Fulfill what? It is not Xia Zhiwei's filial piety that is fulfilled, but the face of the elders in the family. Xia Zhiwei didn't even want to call out to his grandmother. Feng Shi gasped, and her gaze was fiercely gouged out to Xiao Shi. She is really a failure. On the cusp of the storm, what kind of cloud gauze should you wear? Xia Zhiwei caught him again. Ms. Xiao was also very annoyed. Like her mother-in-law, her natal family's dowry was limited. Who would have thought that such a young girl would still have the heart to miss her biological mother's dowry? These years, don't they just take and use Chui's dowry as they want? Tianyuncha is worth $1,000, and my second aunt should have spent a piece of it, right? Old lady, how much is left of my mother's dowry? Xia Zhiwei reminded. Shuntian Mansion keeps a copy of my mother's dowry list. Tian Xiaoyin's surname is Lu. Feng felt a headache when she heard the surname Lu. She took a deep breath and had to give in again. Miss Wei, your second aunt is not thoughtful enough. We are all a family, so don't worry too much about it. Although she speaks it's hard to hear, but you should take care of her a little more because she is so devoted to you. After the Chinese New Year, you will be 11 years old. If your mother is still alive, she should have brought you by her side early to teach you how to run the house well. How about this? Your mother lives in a village in the suburbs of Beijing. There are 2 shops in the city, and I will leave them to you for the time being. You learn to take care of them first. Ask. Tomorrow will be PK, friends of Yangwen, can you contribute a little clicks, votes and comments? I love you, okay. End of this chapter. Chapter 42. Back down. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42 Concession. Xie Jiwei is well aware of the truth that too much is too late. If she wants it, she won't be able to get her mother's dowry. However, if you can't write 2 words of thank you in one stroke, Feng can be ashamed and think about his granddaughter and her natal family, but Xie Jiwei can't help but think of the Xie family. The Xie family will be handed over to brother Shi in the future, so we can't really ruin the reputation of the Xie family by making a fuss over this matter. Xie Jiwei doesn't look at other things, but also looks at the face of the old man. For the sake of his father and brother Shi, he takes care of the family's reputation. There are some things that should be done in moderation. I can't eat hot tofu in a hurry, and she will get all of my mother's dowry back sooner or later. Feng eats all that she has to spit out. The Xie family cannot live without a grandfather, but old lady, if the Feng family is in the position of Lao Fengjun, the Feng family can't sit still, so why don't they sit? Xie Jiwei thought, stood up, brushed the hem of the skirt, as if brushing off something dirty. My cousin Chui's is coming, I have asked him to bring my mother's dowry list, and my grandmother should also have a in these years. If mother's dowry is incomplete, please ask the old lady to convert it according to the market price and complete it one by one, so that the ancestors of the Chui family will not say that my Xie family even took mother's dowry and make relatives laugh for nothing. Of course Xie Jiwei knew that if the ancestors of the Chui family spoke, even the grandfather would have to divorce his wife. Feng's face turned pale for a while, she took a deep breath, and looked at Shao with unfriendly eyes. The second child, you should take care of your sister. In-law's dowry more, these days, the eldest daughter. In-law pays more attention to family affairs. Come on, Count Chui's dowry. Shao sure endured and endured, but she also understood that the old lady couldn't afford to offend her at the moment, and she had a lot to do with Chui Shi's dowry. In this family, only the old lady was her backer, and she received a lot of subsidies from the old lady on weekdays. Since she got the benefits, she had to pay the price, so she had no choice but to stand up and say yes. The old lady had no energy left to talk to these juniors, so she scolded Mrs. Qian for Xie Jiqian's framing of Xie Jiwei. As a child, Qian's face was flushed red by the scolding, and his whole body was shaking with anger, so he only dared to bow his head and listen. Xie Jiwei didn't care about his own affairs and didn't bother to care about them. He understood that Feng Shi just took all the anger from her on Qian Shi's body, but it was not wronged. Who told Xie Jiqian to misbehave? If you don't punish for an hour, you will only lose face of Xie's family in the future, and if you are careless, you will even hurt the family. Finally, the old lady punished Xie Jiqian to kneel in the ancestral hall for a month and write 3,000 characters, saying that it was the old lady's intention. If she couldn't, she would be sent back to her hometown in Luzhou. After dismissing the third room, the old lady didn't give the old room a face, and asked Yuan Shi to go out to take care of Xie Jiwei, leaving only Shao Shi to talk. Xie Jiwei came out of Chunhui Hall. When the wind picked up, the ginkgo trees in the yard shed their leaves and swirled in the air, like butterflies dancing in the afterglow of the setting sun. Xie Jiqian walked in front of her crying. Qian scolded her angrily in a low voice, "What to say? Don't let people know what you have done, don't hurt people if you don't have this ability." It's still not what a mother should say. Xie Jiwei and Yuan Shi avoided the third room, walked through the alley between east and west, walked through Nei Gate, passed through the hall, and entered Yuan Shi's courtyard through Yaimen. Mei. Yuan suddenly stopped in her tracks, and a scent of scented osmanthus wafted over her head. Xie Jiwei looked at Yuan. She was in her prime, but she stayed alone for 5 years. Will be betrayed. Mother. Xie Jiwei was touched, and the circles of his eyes were a little red. Mei, just now your grandmother said that I will be in charge of the family's middle income in the future. I also have a lot of dowry, and I have to spend a lot of time on weekdays. I am stupid, and I can't pay off many accounts. Just right, a few days ago in the past few days, I found that the accounts of a tea shop are always inaccurate. Mei, you can learn arithmetic well at a young age, or, this shop, I will transfer it to your name and take care of it for you, okay? Yuan asked flatteringly, looking at Xia Jiwei carefully, for fear that she would disagree. Xia Jiwei's heart is as sweet as honey, she is already ice.snow and smart, why doesn't she know? Yuan is afraid that she will be sad, comforting her, and telling her that she herself has a lot of dowry, Ruanyang's dowry. If you don't come back, there will be her in the future. Xia Jiwei took 2 steps forward and took Yuan Shi's arm. Mother, I have 10 taels of silver in my monthly bill, which is actually enough, and the old lady will give me 50 taels a month. 2. I didn't spend the more than 4,000 taels my mother gave me a few days ago, and now that I have another zhuangzi and 2 shops in my hand, I have enough money to spend. Xia Jiwei felt that Yuan's whole body was a little stiff, and she wanted to laugh a little, but her eyes were moist involuntarily, and said with a smile, however, if mother wants to give me the shop as a dowry in advance, I will take it first. Yuan only felt that this daughter was as considerate as a little padded jacket. She gently stroked Xia Jiwei's younger generation. Mei, you are doing well today. Don't worry, your mother's dowry will help you when your father comes back. You're coming back. Mother, I'm not worried. Xia Jiwei took a deep breath and looked at the dark clouds rolling in from the sky. The wind is blowing, so it may not rain. I will get back my mother's dowry myself, and I have to eat the meal 1 bite at a time. The road has to be walked step by step, the longer it takes, I won't be the one who suffers. Mrs. Yuan thinks so, and she has also heard that the matter of Chui's dowry is now being discussed outside, and even Uncle Yongchang's mansion is ashamed. Xia Jiwei turned her face to Yuan Shi and smiled sweetly. She was confident and unrestrained, and she became more and more charming. Yuan Shi couldn't help being dazed when he saw her face every day. She couldn't bear it all of a sudden. Yu Momo and Song Shifu's family were punished with 50 slaps, and under the pleading of the old lady, they were not sent to officials, but sent to Zhuangzi. As a result, Feng Shi never dared to touch those things in Cui Shi's dowry anymore. After having dinner at Fuyan Academy, Xia Jiwei checked Brother Shi's homework and taught him some new homework. After being touched by Brother Shi's hard work, he spontaneously proposed to teach Brother Shi how to archery while he was resting. Brother Shi is learning more and more vigorously, but Xia Jiwei has to think that she has to prepare the bow and arrow in advance. Brother Shi can use the bow and arrow she used when she was a child, but to be on the safe side, she has to take it out for inspection by the craftsman at the sword shop. It was dark, and Xia Jiwei returned to Kazewan. Before he could take off the hairpin, Zmo came in to report, Miss, the old lady sent Nanny Jean here. Nanny Jean is already very old, she used to be the old lady's wet nurse. This time, if Nanny you hadn't been brought in, the old lady wouldn't have let Nanny Jean go. PK starts today, please support me. Tweet the article of a good friend. Nongmen Xiaojia orders food into gold. Yuanxia introduction. The senior pastry chef accidentally dressed up as Bao Rong, a 13-year-old tough peasant girl. The stepmother is vicious, and the father-in-law has become the stepmother. Parents are weak and can be bullied. Younger brother is young. Bao Rong rolled up her sleeves, the ultimate bullying, 1 word. Abuse. The family is poor, 1 word. Do it. Parents are weak and take time to train them, and one day they will become meaty. The younger brother is smart, so he should study hard and take the imperial examination, and he will be a backer for his sister in the future. As for the aristocrat who often comes to the door with gifts, well, of course this thick thigh must be hugged tightly. She wants to make her career stronger and bigger, but she can't do it without a backer. Without money, she has the skill of making snacks, whether it is coarse grains, miscellaneous grains, or refined grains, as long as it passes through her hands, it is a treasure. From then on, Bao Rong has all the silver in shops, plus a prince and husband who delivered to the door by himself. The stepmother was so angry that all her stepmothers jumped up and down, but there was nothing she could do about her. End of this chapter. Chapter 43. Settle accounts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 43 Settlement Nurse Jean has a shrewd face, with a ruddy complexion that doesn't match her age. After entering, her eyes scanned everything in Xie Jiwei's room. The eldest girl lived alone in the main courtyard. The entrance is a small three-room building, with partition doors carved in one color and fresh patterns, and 2 rows of couches are built along the wall according to local conditions, which are used by women who go to night on weekdays. There are 5 upper rooms, and the middle one is the main room for receiving guests. The west side is separated by a grid frame carved with red sandalwood, on which there are various ornaments, such as sapphire living ring ear basin, red coral bonsai, jasper carved cloud and dragon pattern urn, topaz carved bergamot vase, and a pair of malachite green elephant ear string pattern statues are particularly conspicuous. Everything is precious and extraordinary. In the middle there is a trap door made of glazed full-length mirror. Through the trap door, there is the Shitsi room. There is a Kong under the south window, and a bed under the back eaves. The second room and the upper room are separated by a green gauze cupboard. Inside is a small mahogany bamboo canopy bed, a light green mosquito net with double embroidered flowers and grass insects is hung on a silver hook, and 2 gold-encrusted pearls, stones and silk sachets are hung on the curtain, emitting a quiet fragrance. Daughter, this house can even live in a fairy. Xie Jiwei was sitting in front of the mirror, and Zmo was helping her remove the hairpin. When Nanny Jean looked up, she saw Xie Jiwei's peach blossom eyes in the mirror, which seemed to be a smile but not a smile. The servant has seen the eldest girl. Nurse Yu was kicked out, and now the old lady doesn't even have anyone useful around her, so she endured it for the time being and will talk about it later. Grandma is free. Xie Jiwei sat motionless, accepting the full salute calmly, not paying attention to Grandma Jean. Nurse Jean is also helpless. If it is a junior from other mansions, she will not accept this gift so boldly, but will treat her with courtesy. But in the face of Xie Jiwei, Mother Jean did not dare to complain at all. Instead she said respectfully, the old lady ordered the slaves to send some gold and jade jewelry, utensils and playthings, calligraphy in painting books on the dowry list to the First Lady. The deeds and account books of Zhuangzi and the shop are also here, please take a look. Nurse Jean personally held a golden sandalwood square box from the maidservant's hand, revealing a hand-copied dowry list, deed paper and account book inside. Xie Jiwei didn't move, so Mother Chiu stepped forward, took the box, looked through it, and nodded to Xie Jiwei. Nanny Jean held up another small lacquered wooden box. Inside are 50,000 taels of silver bills, some dowry from the old lady. These years, due to the old lady's poor health, it was handed over to the second wife to take care of it. The second wife is also busy with the matter, and she didn't take care of it carefully, and it was damaged a lot. The old lady meant that the 50,000 taels of silver bills will be replenished to the girl. Please don't talk to the girl's family, and some things can be taken care of. Skip. Xie Jiwei couldn't believe it. The mother's dowry back then was all valuable in Zhuangzi and shops. These are real estates that earn real money. Will the old lady hand it over to the second wife? The second wife is just a cover put up by the old lady at this moment. But who made the second wife the daughter-in-law of the old lady? Presumably there is no less benefit from it. Mother Chiu, take someone to see my mother's dowry, and match it with the list. Xie Jiwei took out a copy of the dowry list that he had copied by himself, and handed it to Mother Chiu. I don't ask for more, but if I can take it, I will not pursue it, and the old lady will not make it too ugly. Nurse Jean wiped off her cold sweat. She didn't expect Xie Jiwei to keep a hand. She actually had Chui's dowry list in her hand. Back then, there were 3 copies of the dowry list, one for the Chui family, one for the Xie family, and one for the Shantian mansion. Where did Xie Jiwei get this from? Nurse Chiu took the dowry list and glanced at it. Except for the difference in handwriting and paper, this dowry list is actually the same as that year. The big girl stood up, and they don't have to worry too much about being servants in the future. My wife must be able to feel at ease in the spirit of heaven. Nurse Chiu was very pleased. Chui's dowry was placed in the warehouse. In the past, this was where Feng and Xiao could take what they could. Today, the keys have been handed over, and the storekeeper stands at the door, waiting for Mother Chiu and Mother Jean. Inventory. After all, the old lady grew up a little bit, so she didn't dare to fool Xie Zhiwei. Some of the dead things are all returned. Some of the broken ones were converted into silver money and replaced. Most of them were some utensils and cloths. The calligraphy and painting books were not moved. It must be because of Feng and Zhao's backgrounds. They only love vanity. The value of books. After the inventory is completed, it's already a good time. Xie Zhiwei didn't sleep. After taking a shower, he lay on the couch, reading a book. Beside it, a gluttonous-style incense burner made of hetian seeds is full of dignity, and light smoke rises from it, and the room is filled with a refreshing fragrance, which smells like a world away from dust. The curtain cage was picked up, and Zmo, who was serving at the side, called "Girl" softly, and took the book in Xie Zhiwei's hand. Xie Zhiwei sat up, wearing a light pink peony, hibiscus and plum blossom skirt at home, with long crow feather-like hair scattered behind her, smoky eyebrows and black eyes. When she looked at people, she carried a coercion that did not match her age. Xie Zhiwei stretched out his hand, and Zmo hurriedly brought a blue and white hand-pressing cup with lotus patterns on it to her hand. Xie Zhiwei picked it up, took a sip, didn't say anything, just looked at it. "Miss, I have checked the account together with Nanny Jean, and I have recorded all the lost things in the book, please have a look." Madame Chiu respectfully handed over a booklet. Xie Zhiwei reached out to take it, and flipped through it. "The damage, I count, is more than 50,000 taels of silver. There must be 5 or 6,000 taels missing. Jean Mao, what do you think? The old lady should also have one. Account, right?" Nurse Jean made a thud. She knew how Nanny Yu was damaged. The eldest girl was only a little older, and she could estimate the damage in less than a cup of tea. "Miss, to tell you the truth, the old lady does have an account, but right now, the old lady can only take out 50,000 taels of silver to make up for it. Seeing that the end of the year is approaching, the old lady is not rich. Isn't there still a second aunt?" Xie Zhiwei refused to back down even half a step. "Brothers are clear about the accounts, since they have given out 50,000 taels, the 6 or 7,000 taels is not a big number. What I said, I will not say these words a second time." After Xie Zhiwei finished speaking, a pair of dark eyes looked at Jean Nanny quietly. After a while, Jean Nanny's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and she kowtowed, "Your servant must bring the words to you. Mommy is also an old man by the old lady's side. The old lady is getting older, so she should persuade her." It was because Nanny Yu couldn't play the role of persuasion that she was allowed to go back to the honorary care. Everyone is master and servant, presumably the old lady would also like everyone to end up, and be well. A coolness slowly climbed up from Nanny Jin's tailbone. She really didn't expect that the eldest girl is only a little older, and she already has such skill in doing things. The first update. I'm in the PK, please votes in the hands of the donors, please nod your fingers, help to comment, please collect the data, love you. End of this chapter. Chapter 44. Out of town. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. Leaving the city. Xie Zhiwei pursed her lips, and Chiu Nanny understood. She pulled Jean Nanny up from the ground, and personally sent Jean Nanny out. Before going, stuffed a purse, and collected 20 taels of silver. Nurse Jean dared not refuse. Early the next morning, the old lady sent Jean Mao again, and gave a 10,000 tael banknote, but the old lady was ill, and even the second wife said that she was not well. All of a sudden, Yuan's family's support fell on Yuan Shi alone. She was so busy that she only sent someone to send over the deed paper and account books of the tea house, together with 2,000 taels of silver, saying that it was for the eldest girl. For pocket money. Xie Jiwei spent 2 days in a row, apart from going to boudoir school to enlighten brother Shi, he settled accounts in the house. Chui's Zhuangzi in the outskirts of the city was originally a hot spring village. Xie Jiwei reckoned that this Zhuangzi was too conspicuous, and everyone knew it was Chui's dowry. Zhuangzi has a total of 500 mu of good paddy fields and more than 40 households. The surname of Zhuangzi is Zhao. This Zhuangzi produces about 2 to 3,000 taels a year, neither too much nor too little. There are 2 shops in the capital, one is a tofu shop and the other is a silk and satin shop. The income of the tofu shop is slightly less than 50 taels a month, while the profit of the silk and satin shop is high, with a monthly income of nearly 200 taels. In this way, Xie Jiwei's monthly income is nearly 500 taels. This is not counting the more than 60,000 taels of silver bills in her hand. Zhuangzi, 3 shops, 10 books thick, Xie Jiwei's math is good, and the accounts are almost done in 2 days. The old lady is considered thorough in her work, and there are not many mistakes or omissions. Although there is a slight discrepancy in money, Xie Jiwei does not intend to care about such small money. Zmo watched from the side, and asked, "Girl, this tofu shop is still on Maxing Street. It's a good place. The storefronts of the 2 rooms are not too small. They only earn 50 taels a month, isn't it a little less?" Xie Jiwei's slender fingers moved the abacus, and under the light of the candlelight, it was translucent and slender, like fine suet white jade. "Girl, everything is fine and perfect. The predecessor of these 2 tofu shops was originally a shop. The reason why my grandmother replaced it with a tofu shop was because the ancestors of Chui's family did not allow future generations to open shops, and secondly, my mother liked to eat tofu." Xie Jiwei said here, "I don't know what I thought of, my eyes became a little dark, it doesn't matter if you make money or not, as long as you don't lose money." Zmo was a little curious, how did her daughter know about these past events? "Tomorrow, you take 200 taels of silver, and everyone in my yard will give you a reward. The few of you personal servants will pay 100 taels, and the rest will be rewarded." Zmo was happy when she heard that, and quickly thanked her, "I will thank the girl for the reward on behalf of Kazewin. Let someone prepare the car. I'm going to visit Zhuangzi tomorrow morning." Xie Jiwei said, "The 500 acres of paddy fields will be plowed in spring after the new year, so she has to go and have a look." On the 3rd day, Xue Shipeng set off at Ninjuanbo mansion before dawn. Xie Mingshi heard that his sister was going to Zhuangzi, so he almost rolled on the spot and was going to follow. Ms. Yuan has been so busy recently that she doesn't even have time to eat, and she doesn't have time to take care of this brat. Xie Mingshi has been ill for almost a month, and she is about to go crazy. Seeing him pitiful, Xie Jiwei took him with him. Zhuangzi is located 10 miles west of the city, on the upper reaches of the Kai River. When it is flooded, it cannot be flooded. When it is dry, it can be irrigated with water from the Kai River. It is a real fertile land. If it weren't for Zhuangzi being in the suburbs of Beijing, it was too eye-catching, Feng would not be willing to show it anyway. Old Zhao was the dowry from the Chui family, and he was the son of the Chui family. For more than 10 years, the old Zhao has been managing the village. He is already old, but fortunately, his 2 sons very effective, help a lot on weekdays. Zhuangzi was managed in an orderly manner, and there was no such thing as squeezing the farmers or deceiving the master. Xie Jiwei decided to go to Zhuangzi on the spur of the moment, and Mother Qiu only sent someone to report it 1 hour in advance. When Xie Jiwei's carriage left the city gate, he met the person sent by old Zhao to pick him up on the way. It was his eldest son Zhao Quan. When the carriage arrived at Zhuangzi, the old Zhao too had already led the people in Zhuangzi into 2 lines, waiting at the door. Before Xie Jiwei got off the carriage, the old Zhao Tu led the people to kneel down and said in unison, "Give it to the eldest girl. Please." Xie Jiwei got out of the carriage with the help of Zmo. She looked at the old Zhao's head calmly. Her square face was tanned purple, she was wearing a worn lotus blue robe, she was bowed, her expression was very respectful. Xie Jiwei nodded. Guan Zhao is an old man who has been with his grandfather and mother, so don't be too polite. The eldest girl is finally here. All these years, the younger ones have been looking forward to the arrival of the eldest girl. Zhao Guanshi bowed his body and led the way. Eldest girl, the courtyard is ahead, and the eldest girl and the fifth young master are going to rest first. Let's go, or go to the fields to see. Xie Mingxi followed Xie Jiwei obediently. The siblings held hands. Xie Mingxi looked around. It was his first time out of the city, his first time in the field, and he was very curious about everything. The courtyard is backed by fragrant hills and facing Caihe River. From the perspective of feng shui, the front has hope and the back has hope, occupying the best position. This is a great family that has been passed down for more than 100 years. Compared with the dignitaries in the court, the background is even worse. Xie Jiwei asked all the tenants who came to greet her to go back, and asked old Zhao to lead her around the house. There are 5 yards in total, and the main house is 5 rooms wide. The large yard at the back is full of fruits and vegetables. It is said that hunting is still possible on the back mountain. As soon as I heard that House Han can hunt, Xie Mingxi was delighted. "Sister, when will you teach me how to ride and shoot? When I learn it, I will help you hunt little rabbits. Guan Zhao, take us around the back mountain. Although I didn't bring bows and arrows and horses, but first go to familiarize yourself with the environment. Next time you come, be prepared and you can also enter the mountain." At this time of year, the mountain doesn't necessarily only have prey, and it's not in vain for the little guy to pick some wild fruits. Hearing this, Xie Mingxi was satisfied. He held his sister's hand and walked imposingly, arrogantly, as if he could fight dragons and tigers. On the way, Xie Jiwei asked about some Zhuangzi matters. Every year, farmers pay 30% of their income as the rent for the land. This is a rule set by the old man and cannot be changed. Old Zhao said while carefully watching Xie Jiwei's expression. Seeing that she was in no danger, he continued, "In the fields, rice is planted in spring and summer, and wheat and beans are planted in autumn and winter. Although the harvest is not high, it is considered very good in the nearby Zhuangzi." Xie Jiwei was walking among the fields. Just as the old head Zhao said, most of the fields were planted with wheat, which was less than 1 finger high, but it was green and growing very well. Winter wheat is hardy to the cold, and with a few snowfalls, it will be a good harvest in the coming year. I heard that there are people in the south who grow Compa rice, which is drought-resistant and has a higher yield than rice like ours. Xie Jiwei said, "There is only so much soil in the field. If we can change the rice species and increase the yield, will the harvest be good?" "Higher. I forgot to upload it, it's late, sorry. On PK, ask for favorites, votes, and comments for support. Thank you all." End of this chapter. Chapter 45. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. Old Zhao Tu was very surprised. The eldest girl, a girl in the boudoir, actually knew about Compa rice, and hurriedly said, "There is Compa rice," and the imperial court deliberately promoted it. The younger one saw it with the old man when he was in Chui's house. Zhanqing rice has larger grains than our rice. If the older girl is willing to try it, the younger one can ask the younger son to go to the south and bring some rice back for planting. Next year, select a few fields on the back of the mountain for planting. Try. Regardless of whether it is good or bad, as long as the rice seeds are improved, this can be regarded as one of his achievements. In these years, since there is no one in charge, Lao Zhao does not dare to make decisions on his own. He just follows the old ways and does not make mistakes. Compa rice was a farming activity promoted by the false emperor when the false emperor was there. Later, he took up this position today and negated all the state affairs dominated by the false emperor. Compa rice was only used in the south by farmers promoted privately, and there is no one in the north. But the output of compa rice is nearly 30% higher than the current local rice output. Yes. Xia Jiwei said, I will trouble manager Zhao to make arrangements. While talking, a group of people entered the forest. Zhao Quan led the way, and walked towards a mountain depression. Eldest girl, fifth young master, there are some wild chestnut trees in front of you. During this season, you can harvest some chestnuts, roast chicken or roast them. Eat it, it's very sweet. Xia Mingxi slobbered. Walking into the mountain depression, sure enough, I saw a dozen or so tall wild chestnut trees in front of me, with dense hairy chestnuts hanging on the trees, lowering the branches, the size of an adult's thumb, hanging on the branches, clusters, golden yellow, like a little monkey. People move their index fingers at a glance. It is the season for picking, because there are very few people who come to pick it, and a lot of it falls on the ground. Those with low branches can pick up several baskets. Old Zhao said that he wanted someone to bring a ladder, but Xia Jiwei stopped him, and only asked someone to bring a few baskets. He took his younger brother and put on thick animal leather gloves, and walked carefully among the trees, choosing those golden ones. Pick it down. Xia Mingxi was very excited to do these tasks, and soon, the two of them picked several baskets full, sweating from exhaustion. Brother Shi, is this enough? Xia Jiwei looked at the sun. It was already clear, and it was lunch time. Okay, sister, the chestnut cake is delicious too. Xia Mingxi agreed while picking several more chestnuts and putting them in a basket. Crunch. The sound of trampling on broken branches came from the north, followed by the sound of chaotic footsteps, and a faint voice came from among them, Master Shao, I remember that there is a Zhuangzi in front, maybe there is a doctor. Immediately afterwards, there was a majestic voice, Chu Yining, look ahead, yes. The sound got closer and closer. Xia Mingxi froze in fright. Xia Jiwei took off the basket he was carrying, handed it to ZMO, and pulled Xia Mingxi behind him. A man in leather armor was walking towards this side with a knife in his hand. His jet-black hair was simply tied behind his head with a black ribbon. He was not wearing a helmet. There was a finger on his forehead. The wide mopping forehead was reined in, and a pair of tiger eyes looked towards this side, full of murderous aura. Xia Jiwei gasped, what day is today? She kept her younger brother behind her, calmly said, this official, do you dare to ask what happened? I am the owner of this village, is there anything I can do to help? While speaking, a group of people behind the man had already come up. The leader was about 40 years old, dressed in a brocade robe, jade belt around the waist, boots facing the soles of the feet, handsome face. Xia Jiwei was surprised when he first saw this man. He lowered his eyes slightly. It was Emperor Shokong, who actually met the emperor in this kind of place. Behind him, there is a white horse with a person crouching on it, precariously falling off the horse at any moment, with an arrow stuck in its back. The arrow feather is wobbly, black blood snakes down from the person's back, the snow-white horse hair was dyed black. There is poison on the arrow. After people approached, Xia Jiwei discovered that among the pedestrians were not only the young Prince Mu, Shao Sun, the eldest prince and the second prince, but also someone she did not expect, Xue Shipang, the eldest master of Uncle Ningyuan's mansion. A group of people are all wearing ordinary clothes, and they are also very low-key. They must be walking around with the emperor. In addition to this, there are also Luo Gang, the commander of Jinyui, Xing Shi, Minister of Rights, and Zhang Yuan, the Doctor of Imperial History. It's just, there is no such person. Why didn't he follow the emperor? Xia Jiwei thought of something, and looked sharply at the horse's back. He was dressed in a moon-white silk robe with clouds, cranes, miscellaneous treasures, dark flowers, black hair, and a hosta. Could it be that person? He has always been highly valued by the emperor, and he is always on his side. Xie Jiwei thought of this possibility, but couldn't ask. Her peach blossom eyes turned slightly red from anxiety. Who are you? Chu Yining saw that there were only women and children, and 2 servant girls, so there was no danger. But the matter was so important that they were attacked. In order to save the emperor, Mr. Lu was poisoned with arrows, so he couldn't be careless. Chu Yining was about to draw his sword to face each other, but Xiao Sun had already stepped forward to stop him. Uncle, this is the eldest daughter of Dali Temple Qing Xie's family. My nephew had an appointment with Miss Xie in the south study room before, but I lost. Even if Xiao Sun didn't remind him, Emperor Shou Kong remembered who Xie Jiwei was, and his complexion was a little better. Xie Jiwei is also smart, so he quickly invited, Master Xiao, the front is the zhuangzi left by my mother. Master Xiao and all the masters and young masters, you might as well go to the zhuangzi to rest. Shou Kongdi nodded and asked, in our line of work, someone was injured and poisoned. Is there a doctor around here? Xie Jiwei glanced at old Zhao. Old Zhao didn't know who these people were, but the master knew them anyway, so he hurriedly stepped forward to salute. There is a Heshentang pharmacy in the nearest town. Dr. Qin has good medical skills, and the little ones usually go to Dr. Qin when they have a cold or cough. When Emperor Shoukong heard this, he was at a loss. How would a doctor who treats a cold and a cough detoxify? He hurriedly told Chu Yining, hurry up and go back and find Wang Shipu. Wang Shipu is an imperial physician who works in the imperial hospital. He was the imperial physician who served the queen in Feimen Temple and confronted Xie Jiwei for tat. Chu Yining took the order to leave, and the rest of the people quickly came to Zhuangzi under the guidance of Xie Jiwei. Manager Zhao led a few people outside to maintain order, and persuaded the farmers who came to watch the fun to go back. 2 Jinyui men came forward and unloaded the man from the horse. Seeing the familiar face, Xie Jiwei clenched his hands into fists involuntarily, and his body trembled slightly. The injured person was Lu Yen. His eyes were closed, his face was black and blue, and his lips were black and purple. The first update. There will be PK results today, I hope to advance. End of this chapter. Chapter 46. Hook Kiss. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 46. Hook Kiss. In the previous life, when she saw Lu Yen, he looked haggard, white-haired and chicken-skinned. Xie Jiwei later found out that Lu Yen blocked an arrow for Emperor Shoukong, and the arrow was coated with the poison of Hook and Kiss. Although he saved his life, the poison in his body was not cleaned, his body was broken, his body was not human, and his health was deteriorating. Emperor Shoukong still wanted him to accompany him and entrust him with important tasks. Xie Jiwei often couldn't help but think that if Lu Yenying hadn't died young, she might not have fallen into such a situation. She never wanted to understand why Lu Yen was so kind to her until she died. Before she died, she gave her all the power in her hand, so that she had the capital to negotiate and cooperate with Xiao Sun. Only when you are dying can you take revenge and leave no regrets. Xiao Sun's eyes locked on Xie Jiwei, seeing her reaction in his eyes, and his heart was full of doubts. Xie Jiwei's nail shells dug deeply into her palms, and she could barely restrain her emotions until the tingling pain came. She is not a philanthropic person. The only thought in her life is to protect her family and friends, and Lu Yen is one of the people she wants to protect. Xiao Sun approached slowly. Xie Jiwei raised her head and looked at him. Although Xiao Sun didn't say anything, she was so blessed that she understood the unspoken meaning in Xiao Sun's eyes. Just, why? Why did he make this deal with himself? Even if Xiao Sun doesn't mention conditions, she will find a way to keep Lu Yen and prevent him from suffering from the poisonous erosion of his previous life. Even if she might be exposed to Xiao Changxian because of this, she would not hesitate. She and Xiao Changxian had a never-ending feud. Lu Yen was placed on the couch in the second room. The atmosphere in the room was very depressing. The emperor sat on an official hat chair, holding a teacup in his hand, suppressing his anger, and the veins on the back of his hand bulged. This arrow was clearly aimed at him. If it wasn't for Lu Yen, he would be the one hovering on the verge of life and death. Where did Chu Yining go? How long is it? Shou Kongdi's violent voice came out. Xia Jiwei pushed his younger brother and asked Zmo to lead him to the backyard. Xiao Sun gave Mu Xiaowang a look. Prince Mu came out and stood on the edge of the threshold, seemingly carelessly, and asked, Miss Xia is the granddaughter of the Chui family. Have a little understanding of the art of Qi and Huang. Know a thing or two. One or two, it has always been self-effacement. The emperor naturally heard it inside, and was taken aback. Let Miss Xia come in. There is no need for a person-to-person transmission. Little Prince Mu stepped aside. Xia Jiwei came in, and after saluting, the emperor asked, can you tell what kind of poison Mr. Lu has? Although everyone knew each other's identities, since the emperor still wanted to conceal it, Xia Jiwei didn't care, and slightly bent his knees. Hook kiss. The wounded bled all the way, and the blood energy spread all the way. As a doctor, Xia Jiwei had already smelled the poisonous smell mixed with the blood energy. What's the solution to the hook kiss? Can the Jinqing ice lotus cure this poison? The emperor actually knew about Jinqing Binglian. Xia Jiwei's heart skipped a beat. She didn't know what Xiao Sun's expression was at this time, and she didn't dare to peek. She lowered her eyes slightly. Master Xiao, if you study 9 chapters of arithmetic, all experts know that there are many ways to solve a calculation problem. Of course, the Jinqing ice lotus can naturally cure the poison of the hooked kiss, but the poison of the hooked kiss is not the only solution for the golden green ice lotus. The emperor nodded, and Xia Jiwei understood that she was allowed to detoxify Lu Yen. Xue Shipong was restless by the side, and he managed to catch up with Lu Yan's line. According to his daughter's calculations, although Lu Yen was dangerous this time, he was able to save his life in the end, and he would live for another 10 years without any problem. Noel done in the past 10 years are enough for the Xue family to seek some benefits from Lu Yen. Once Lu Yen was put to death by Xia Jiwei, Xue Shipong could hardly imagine that the benefits would definitely be gone, and he might be implicated by Xia Jiwei. Thinking of this, Xue Shipong couldn't care less, and opened his mouth to object. Master Xiao, since Mr. Chu has already gone to invite Dr. Wang, why don't you wait? Miss Xia is young after all. In case something goes wrong, Mr. Lu may lose his life. Xia Jiwei glanced at Xue Shipong lightly, wondering when Xue Shipong was also qualified to accompany the driver. What a shit-stirring stick. Xia Jiwei felt disgusted in his heart, so he had to go forward and said, Master Xiao, if you have a cup of tea in the evening, the poison will attack your heart. Even if Mr. Lu can save a life, it will damage his lifespan, and he will only be a useless person in the future. How sure are you? Xiao Sun asked. 80%. Xia Jiwei wanted to say 100%, but she was afraid that if she talked too much, she would be envied by the heavens. She didn't care about it, but Lu Yen couldn't do anything wrong. Uncle, let Miss Xia try it. Shou Kongdi agreed without much thought. He didn't trust Xia Jiwei, but believed in Xiao Sun. Xiao Sun never did anything uncertain. I'm afraid that Xia Jiwei won Xiao Sun's chess in Nanshufang last time, which made Xiao Sun trust her so much. Shou Kongdi loved piano, chess, calligraphy and painting. He nodded. It was considered to have agreed to Xiao Sun's request. Xue Shipong still had to argue hard. Shou Kongdi looked at him with a sharp look. He had to shut his mouth, and suddenly broke out in cold sweat, for fear that today's great situation would be ruined by Xia Jiwei. It's broken. I just think, since my daughter pushed the little girl down the pond in Feynman Temple, why not just drown her? It's really not enough to succeed but more to fail. After Zmo settled down with Xia Mingxi, she came back soon. She acted on Xia Jiwei's winks, and quickly brought the medical kit that Xia Jiwei carried with him. Originally, a 10-year-old child treated Lu Yan's illness, and these people who accompanied him thought it was absurd. But right now, they have no choice, either watch Lu Yan die from the poison, or let Xie Jiwei die as a living horse doctor. Besides, since the emperor has spoken, no one dares to raise objections. Xiao Sun stood under the south window, a young man in a brocade robe with arrow sleeves, jade belt and green boots, standing with his hands behind his back. In autumn, Gao Yang shines on his jade-like face through the ice-cracked glass window. His black hair like a crow's feather is tied with a purple silk ribbon and hangs down behind his head. Shine. Xiao Sun's gaze locked onto Xie Jiwei, his eyes were filled with ink that was too thick to melt, like a vortex that could swallow all the light and color in the world. She really knows medicine, and she looks superb in medicine. Xie Jiwei felt a sharp gaze on her, but at this moment, Xie Jiwei couldn't care about anything else. Zmo had already helped Xie Jiwei put on the self-made gown. She rolled up her sleeves, revealing a small section of white wrist, and said solemnly, "Open the needle bag." Zmo was a little flustered, but this was not the first time. She unfolded the needle bag instinctively, and everyone saw that there were hundreds of golden needles shining in the needle bag. Xiao Sun. I am the male lead, I am the male lead, I am the male lead, important things are said 3 times. Lu Yan. Readers have the final say on whether I am the hero or not. PK is kneeling, thank you all for your support. It will be on the shelves in the early morning, and it will be updated soon. Please make the first order. End of this chapter. Chapter 47. Detoxification. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 47. Detoxification. Zmo was a little flustered, but this was not the first time. She unfolded the needle bag instinctively, and everyone saw that there were hundreds of golden needles shining in the needle bag. A total of 108. The emperor's pupils shrank slightly, he was familiar with this. This is Chui's 108 needles, which can compete with Hades for his life. Xie Jiwei took the needle with both hands, moved his left and right hands together, and instantly stabbed at Lu Yan's heart at the same time. Xue Shipeng only felt that the needle seemed to be inserted into his heart. The Xie family really wanted their Xue family to be bad. This is clearly the rhythm to put Lu Yan to death. Xue Shipeng became angry instantly, ignoring the emperor's presence. Absurd, really absurd, this is not treating a disease, it is clearly killing one's life. Xie Jiwei glanced sideways at Xue Shipeng, and said coldly, shut up. Xue Shipeng talked about it as Xie Jiwei's uncle and elder, and when she yelled at her like that, his face flushed with anger, but if he went up to argue with Xie Jiwei at this time, maybe Lu Yan would lose his life even faster, maybe, Xie Jiwei will blame him at that time. After weighing it over and over again, Xue Shipeng had to swallow a mouthful of old blood in anger. Almost at the same time, Xie Jiwei stretched out his left and right hands again, and the 2 golden needles pierced Lu Yan's left and right temples respectively. At this time, the little prince Mu Guihong couldn't hold back any longer. The temples are the fatal points of the human body. Isn't this little girl too courageous? Or is she an ignorant and fearless person? With a flick of Xie Jiwei's hands, golden needles were inserted into several of Lu Yan's big and dead acupoints. As her last needle landed on the Baihui acupoint on the top of Lu Yan's head, Lu Yan, who had been lifeless all the time, let out a wow, and started vomiting. The strong fishy smell filled the room in an instant. Master Xiao, why don't you go out and wait? Xue Shipeng didn't want to watch any more, and if he continued to watch, he would be the one lying down. The emperor thought Xue Shipeng was noisy, so he gave him a cold glance. Xue Shipeng had to shut up again, and wanted to pinch his nose, but he didn't dare. Old Zhao Tu brought his son to clean it himself. Xie Jiwei touched Lu Yan's shoulder with one hand. She was weak, but fortunately Xiao Sun had great eyesight, so he hurried over to help. Xie Jiwei's fingers gently twirled the end of the silver needle. Injun let out a slight whimpering sound, like vomiting. Xia Zhiwei didn't stop until Lu Yan's jaundice was vomited out. At this time, most of the bruises on Lu Yan's face had faded away, and a cold whiteness appeared on Lu Yan's originally blue lips, but a hint of vitality could be vaguely seen growing, and everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Xia Zhiwei took the thickest golden needle again, pinched the ring fingertip of Lu Yan's left hand with the other hand, twisted it gently, twisted it, and suddenly a needle went down, a drop of black blood oozes out, a fishy smell came to the nostrils. Is this poisonous blood? Mu Guihong couldn't help but hear it. Oh.org, yeah. Xia Zhiwei glanced at him in disgust. She let go of Lu Yan's fingers, and began to flick the tails of the 2 silver needles on Lu Yan's left chest. Every time she flicked, all the silver needles on Lu Yan's body seemed to fall resonate with it, and vibrate together, and a black blood bead will ooze from Lu Yan's fingertips. So, about a cup of tea time. In the mid-autumn season, it was already cold, but Xia Zhiwei's forehead was covered with beads of sweat, and her underwear was completely soaked, but this was just the beginning. When the blood on Lu Yan's ring finger gradually turned red, Xia Zhiwei breathed a sigh of relief. She let go of the golden needle, wiped the sweat from her forehead with a handkerchief, and said to Xiao Sun in a deep voice, "I want to pull out the blood for him. The arrow on his back is wounded, and none of the gold needles on his body can touch, are you sure?" No one has ever questioned himself before. Xiao Sun raised his eyes and looked at Xia Zhiwei. There seemed to be omnipotent power in his dark eyes. Xia Zhiwei saw Xiao Sun at such a close distance for the first time, only to find that he had a pair of ink-like and picturesque eyes. The phoenix eyes are majestic and the tails of the eyes are upturned, with a bit of cynical youthful air. Xia Zhiwei knows that this person can't just look at his appearance, he will never let others know his deepest thoughts. Xia Zhiwei also doesn't want to know, if possible, in this life. She hopes to stay as far away from Xiao Sun as possible, and hopes that after saving Lu Yan this time, Xiao Sun can keep his promise and stop thinking about her. Although Jinking Binglian can detox all kinds of poisons, it doesn't really have much effect on hook kissing. If she had no previous life and had never been a queen, Xia Zhiwei would never know if she died. What does Jinking Binglian mean to the royal family? She just pretends she doesn't know anything. After just a few thoughts, Xia Zhiwei has once again concentrated on saving people. Although Lu Yan's breathing was still very rapid, he was finally able to breathe. Xia Zhiwei's finger rested on his pulse for about 2 breaths, and he was confident, let's start. Although the atmosphere in the room was still very depressing, at this moment, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that Lu Yan's poison was almost cured. Zimo, prepare your knife. Xia Zhiwei was like a veteran commanding thousands of troops. She calmly commanded Xiao Sun and Mu Xiaowang to fix Lu Yan, while picking up the knife in the knife bag. There are a total of more than 10 knives of different shapes. The blade is about the size of a little finger, and the handle is 1 finger long. It is brand new and bright, and the blade is shining with cold light. Warriors like Zhang Yuan are fine. Xue Shipang saw the cold light of the blade flashing between Xia Zhiwei's fingers, and he gasped suddenly. Is the Xia family still a nobleman? When did you become a butcher? Fortunately, Xue Shipang is afraid of death, he has already learned how to behave, he knows to shut up, and dare not speak again. Xia Zhiwei pressed an acupuncture point on Lu Yan's arrow wound with her left hand, and her hand was like lightning. She did not know how she swiped and pulled it, and the black arrow clusters were exposed. The arrow will leave the body. During the whole process, not a single drop of blood was spilled. Zimo. Xia Zhiwei actually took out a needle from the knife bag, with a thread on it, and saw her flying the needle and thread on Lu Yan's wound, saying the name of the medicine at the same time. Bunny Lu Qian, Sankiliu Qian, Baiji 4 Qian, Puwang 3 Qian, Hedgehog Skin 3 Qian, Puwang 6 Qian. After you catch them, mash them up and send them over immediately. Old Zhao heard it from outside. Zimo came out, he quickly followed, and asked, Miss Zimo, I want my son to go to the town to get medicine. No need, these common medicines are all prepared in the girl's car. Fortunately, the girl prepared some commonly used medicines in the car before going out. It was originally prepared for emergencies, but unexpectedly, it really came into use. Xia Jiwei has almost treated Lu Yan's wound. The wound where the white bones were originally turned up was smoothed out, and the stitches were fine and neat. During the whole process, I don't know if Lu Yan felt no pain, and he never frowned. ZMO came in holding a tray, on which were weighed and crushed herbs. Ask for the first order. This data is very important to me, thank you everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 48. Alive, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 48. Alive. Xia Jiwei asked ZMO to come closer. She looked at it carefully, sniffed it again, and said, just now, put it away. After applying the medicine, wrapping, and pulling out the needle, it was already half an hour later. Xia Jiwei was so tired that she was about to collapse. She was young and had limited energy. Thanks to her strong willpower, she could barely support the pillar. Wang Shipu was pulled off the horse by Chu Yining, and fell to the ground. He didn't care to get up, but was picked up by Chu Yining and dragged into the house. Emperor didn't care, just watched coldly. Wang Shipu only saluted the emperor in a hurry, and then under Chu Yining's signal, he sat down sideways on the stool next to Lu Yan's couch, and after a long moment of concentration, he stretched out 3 trembling fingers to rest on Lu Yan's bed. On the wrist. Xia Jiwei sat at the table to rest for a while, drinking a cup of tea. She watched with cold eyes, saw that Wang Shipu took tens of breaths of time to check the pulse, could not make up his mind, frowned, and had to change another hand to take the pulse. Dr. Wang, how are you? Xue Shipong was in a hurry, his future depended on Lu Yan. The reason why the emperor went on a tour in micro-clothes this time was that he heard that a white tiger had appeared in the nearby Xiangrui County, so he took advantage of Xiumu and a group of people went to Xiangrui County to see the white tiger. Unexpectedly, after walking less than 20 miles out of the city, they were besieged by refugees. Xue Shipong had led his servants to wait nearby, ready to find the right opportunity to rescue Lu Yan. The daughter made it very clear that it was useless to save the emperor, even if he saved the emperor's life. If he could not get into Lu Yan's eyes, not only would there be no blessings in the future, there might even be disasters. And into Lu Yan's eyes, it is equivalent to getting a gold medal for avoiding death, not to mention, it is still like Dan Shu Iron Seal. The emperor brought a lot of guards. When the refugees were driven away, several refugees were still fighting with Lu Yan. The guards went up to protect the emperor, and Lu Yan didn't even have a guard. At this time, Xue Shipong suddenly felt that even the heavens were helping him. He hurriedly led his servants out to help Lu Yan beat the refugees away. Originally, the matter should have come to a successful conclusion here, but the daughter also confessed that on the way back, there will be an ambush, so let him be careful. At that time, if there is a cold arrow shot out, if Xue Shipong wants to fight a big one, he can take the risk and help Lu Yan block it. Otherwise, at this time, Xue Shipong's credit for Lu Yan will be almost the same. Just when Xue Shipong was tangled and didn't know how to choose, the cold arrow had already been shot. Originally Xue Shipong was worried that if he brought a few family members to help Lu Yan, he might not be able to earn the title of a prince. Don't worry anymore. The arrow was actually shot towards the emperor, and Lu Yan was walking behind the emperor at that time. He rushed forward suddenly, turning himself into a human shield, blocking in front of the emperor, and the arrow also shot it pierced Lu Yan's back. Xue Shipong didn't know why her daughter didn't count correctly. Didn't she say that the arrow was aimed at Lu Yan? In any case, Xue Shipong himself had saved his life, and he didn't dare to imagine that if the arrow hit him, would he survive until now. The emperor also waited nervously. Wang Shipu stood up and cupped his hands towards the emperor. Master Shao, although Mr. Lu was dangerous, he managed to save his life. I wonder who this master of detoxification is. Can I ask you for advice? Wang Shipu is not modest, he just dare not bully the king. The one in Lu Yen is a hook kiss. What kind of poison is a hook kiss? See blood seal throat, no medicine can solve it. When Chu Yining went to the Imperial Hospital to bring him here, Wang Shipu hated all the 18 generations of Chu Yining's ancestors. Fortunately, he had a hard life, and it was a step too late, and Lu Yan's poison was cured. Wang Shipu was too hasty, so he didn't see Xie Jiwei. Everyone in the room understood what Wang Shipu said. Lu Yan is alive. Xiao Sun looked at Xie Jiwei, just in time to meet her sharp eyes, beautiful peach eyes, full of confidence, like the morning stars in winter, bright and gorgeous. Xiao Sun only felt that his eyes were burned, and he quickly looked away. The emperor glanced at Xie Jiwei. Xie Jiwei understood, stood up, and walked to Wang Shipu. Dr. Wang, Mr. Lu's poison has been cured by more than half, but there is still some poison in his body, and his wound is quite deep. Tonight it is unavoidable to be risky, and medicine needs to be prescribed, so I said, write it down. Wang Shipu stared blankly at Xie Jiwei. Why is it her again? It wasn't Xie Jiwei's entrustment, but she had exhausted her arms just now to save her, and she was trembling slightly even serving tea, and she knelt down to the emperor and said, Master Xiao, my little girl's 5 fingers are too hard, and she can no longer hold a pen. It was out of necessity. Lu Yan's breathing has calmed down, long and even. The atmosphere in the room also became more relaxed. Everyone wiped off the cold sweat from their foreheads and breathed a sigh of relief. Shou Kong showed a smile on his face. He looked at Xie Jiwei with soft eyes, and he didn't take this matter to heart. It was also a way to save face for Wang Shipu. You guys discussed and opened a prescription. It is said to be a discussion, but in fact, it was said by Xie Jiwei and written by Wang Shipu. Wang Shipu was not at all unwilling. He had learned Xie Jiwei's methods long ago, but he never expected that this little girl could actually untie a hook kiss, which shows that her medical skills are extraordinary. It is his honor to be able to help such a master. I don't know if Xie Jiwei is willing to accept apprentices. The Cui family would definitely not accept him as an apprentice. If he could get Xie Jiwei's advice, he would benefit a lot in his life. Wang Shipu happily spread paper, rubbed ink, picked up a pen, and listened to prescriptions. Xue Shipong saw the corners of his eyes twitching. He couldn't understand it at all. 6 qian of ginseng, 5 qian of guangui, 3 qian of poria cocos, 6 qian of atractylodes macrocephala, 2 qian of aconite, made, 6 qian of licorice. When Wang Shipu wrote this, he couldn't help but look up at Xie Jiwei. His eyes became wild, like looking up at a high mountain. Xie Jiwei was baffled by him, and he didn't bother to pay attention to it. He just pretended not to see it, and continued, hawthorn 5 coins, akebia 3 coins, lotus nose 6 coins, comfrey 3 coins, sumac 5 coins, forsythia 7 coins. 7 coins for gold and silver flowers. She added a touch of honeysuckle at the end. L.C. Wang Shipu wrote the prescription, handed it to Xie Jiwei with both hands respectfully, and couldn't help but ask, dare to ask girl, why do you want to add honeysuckle? Xie Jiwei glanced at it, and seeing that it was correct, he handed it back to Wang Shipu. Dr. Wang, do you know the compatibility of the poisonous kiss? Wang Shipu was stunned. Why did he need to know the compatibility of hook kiss? If you want to detoxify, you must know the poison. Xie Jiwei pointed out. Wang Shipu was enlightened, but in front of the emperor, he really couldn't express his admiration for Xie Jiwei. Master Xiao, Mr. Lu still has a difficulty to overcome tonight. For a while, Mr. Lu should not move. If Mr. Lu is not allowed to spend the night at my little girl's village, we will see the situation tomorrow. Xie Jiwei's meaning is obvious. Lu Yan must not be able to move, the emperor can do as he pleases. The second update. End of this chapter. Chapter 49. Attack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 49 Attack. It was getting late, and the emperor was indeed going back to the palace. If Lu Yan was not very dangerous, he would have left a long time ago. Chu Yining stayed and led 1,000 imperial troops to protect Shuangzi, and Wang Shipu stayed. The emperor glanced at Xie Jiwei, help Miss Xie well. Wang Shipu couldn't wait to accept the emperor's order, so that he could help Miss Xie in an open and honest manner. The sun has set, everyone can finally set foot on their way home. Xie Jiwei asked Zhao Quan to go back to the mansion with the emperor and his party to report to the eldest wife that she and Xie Mingxi will stay in Zhuangzi overnight today. Xue Shipeng reluctantly left. If possible, he also wanted to stay and serve Lu Yan, but the emperor didn't speak. Alas, it was a good plan, and Cheng Yaojin, Xie Jiwei, was killed halfway through. It was really depressing. Back to Xue's house, Xue Shipeng didn't have time to freshen up, so he went to Guanju courtyard, the courtyard where Xue Wanqing lived. This is the main courtyard. If it hadn't been for Pang's dislike that Xie's had lived in it, and it had been burned by fire, Xue Wanqing would not have lived there. The location is good and the area is large, with 3 courtyards and 5 rooms wide. After some repairs, although it is not exquisite enough, it is still one of the few good courtyards in the Xue family. This is also one of the conditions that Xue Wanqing and Xue Shipeng raised in this transaction. Xue Wanqing was writing at her desk. She knew very well that the current emperor loves piano, chess, calligraphy and painting. Gain a reputation as a talented woman. According to the plot in the book, after the beginning of the new year, in about 3 or 4 months, a female master from the south of the Yangtze River will come to Beijing. At that time, she will raise some funds to open a female school in the capital with the support of the Queen. Only 10 students are admitted. Because it was the first time, this year's admissions examination mainly focused on piano, chess, calligraphy and painting, which made her famous and shook the government and the public. The 10 female students selected will also be awarded the title of talented women. In the book, among the 10 people, Xie Jiwei has a place. Originally, Xue Wanqing's name was also there, but Xue Wanqing was worried that the plot would change after she crossed over. After all, she had never learned calligraphy in her previous life, and she could only write hard-tipped calligraphy. There is a lot of feudal dross. Girl, the Grand Master is here. Cui Xiang raised the curtain and came in and said. Xue Wanqing hurriedly put away the written words. In fact, when traveling through this kind of thing, she can only accept the memory of the predecessor, but cannot accept the skills of the predecessor, and the predecessor is still talented. As for her, fortunately, before transmigrating, she attended the Peiyu class, and her calligraphy and painting were not very good, but she dabbled in Go and learned Guzheng. In this way, it is quick to pick up. After Xue Wan cleaned her hands, she came out of the small study room in Dongxi room. Xue Shipeng was already sitting on the head seat in the Ming room, and the maids served him tea. The cup was relieved. Greetings to Daddy. Xue Wanqing didn't have any feelings for this cheap father, but she also knew that only a loving father and a filial daughter would be good for her, so she saluted respectfully. Qing'er, sit down. Xue Shipeng said impatiently, Qing'er, Mr. Lu was indeed hit by an arrow, but the arrow was aimed at the emperor, and my father wanted to sacrifice his life to save him, but it's a pity that he left too far. Xue Wanqing was also a little surprised. The book only said that Lu Yan's life was hanging by a thread in this accident, but it didn't say that the other party was targeting the emperor. But no matter what, her cheap father is afraid of death and pain, not to mention that it is impossible to accompany him personally, but fortunately he doesn't have one. She is still worried that in a critical moment, her father will hold the emperor to block arrows and harm the 9 clans. Father, please tell me what happened today. Xue Wanqing said. How Xue Shipeng ambushed himself nearby, how he saw the refugees attacking Xingjia with his own eyes, how the guards protected the emperor, how Lu Yan was besieged by the refugees, how he took the opportunity to appear and rescued Lu Yan. After the emperor was defeated, he did not go to Qingxiangrui County, on the way back home, was ambushed by Yunyan halfway. Finally, Xue Shipeng asked worriedly, I don't know if Master Lu can survive this time. I heard that it is the poison of hook kisses. If he survives, I don't know if he can remember being a father this time. Desperate to save. Father is unlucky this time, and it is indeed worse than Qing'er's expectations, but it doesn't matter, Mr. Lu has always had a clear grievance, no matter what, Father rescued Mr. Lu at a critical moment. If he has the opportunity, Mr. Lu will definitely I will know how to repay you. Xue Wanqing recalled that in the book, after Lu Yan learned of Xie Jiwei's identity, he guarded Xie Jiwei like all his life, just because Xie Jiwei had saved Lu Yan's life when he was 3 years old. Zhao Quan reported that Xie Jiwei and Xie Mingxi were going to stay in Zhuangzi overnight. Because the emperor was involved, he didn't say the real reason, he only said that Zhuangzi was fun, and he wanted to play there for another day. Yuan's method was still a bit weak. She only knew about this matter, and before she had time to react, Chunhui Hall knew about it. The old lady sent someone to call Yuan, and Yuan hurried over. He had just entered Chunhui Hall, and before he had time to greet him, the old lady snapped, kneel down. Yuan sure took a deep breath, and she couldn't help but think of what Xie Jiwei said, Mom, no matter what we do, the old lady can't treat the eldest house kindly, so why should we do more? Just show some kindness, don't worry about it. Yes, there is no need to do more, what should be fought is still to be fought. Mother, I don't know what my daughter-in-law did wrong. Yuan asked puzzledly, her shoulders were straight, and her expression showed a rare stubbornness. This daughter-in-law comes from a family of military generals, and her father and brother are both fierce generals in the battlefield. But in the 5 or 6 years since entering Xie's family, Feng Shi only feels that she has a very good temper, and she will do whatever she says, and she has almost never disobeyed her. Following Xie Jiwei's unfilial son-in-law, do you want to learn from it? If you do something wrong, if you don't know it's wrong, it's just adding more mistakes. Feng Shi was furious, and said to Xiao Shi, tell me, what exactly did your sister-in-law do wrong? Sister-in-law, how old is the eldest girl? Xiao obeyed her mother-in-law, stood up and asked. The eldest sister's birthday is the 8th day of May, and she is 10 years old this year. A 10-year-old child, I don't know why the sister-in-law has such a big heart, she dared to let her family spend the night outside. If something goes wrong, what will the face of the Xie family be? Should all the girls of the Xie family be white? Ling took her life. Xiao said righteously and sternly. Yuan's face turned pale with anger, second brother and sister, Mei went out, the maid and the house guard, a total of more than 10 people escorted them, and they were at Zhuangzi not far from the suburbs of Beijing. The Zhuangtou belonged to Chui's family. The family has a son, there are still many farmers on the village, at the foot of the emperor, in front of the imperial city, what can happen? The third update. End of this chapter. Chapter 50. Reinforcement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50. Rescue. If something happens to the eldest girl, what will the sister-in-law say? Xiao did not back down. This is a very good opportunity, if he can't seize this opportunity, then he really has lived to the age of a dog. Mimi is my daughter. If something happens to her, I will always be with her. Even if she dies, I will lead her to the road to hell. Yuan's eyes widened, second brother and sister, you should not curse Mimi here. Gone. Mr. Xiao still wanted to say that a servant girl's voice came from the door, the second girl is here. Then she said, the fourth master is here. The fourth master of the Xie family, Xie Jibai, is an old man of the Feng family, and besides the treasure that Xue Wanqing holds in his hands, the Feng family cares about him. When she heard that the fourth child was coming, she waved her hand to tell the two daughters-in-law not to quarrel. Hurriedly said, please come in soon. Xie Jibai was only 15 years old, his face was as white as jade, and he was dressed in a lotus-blue round-neck robe that made him stand tall. He quickly walked up to the old lady and saluted first, "Greetings to mother. Come to me." Feng waved to his son, but Xie Jibai was not in a hurry. After greeting Yuan and Zhao's two sister-in-laws, he sat down on the chair below. Feng Shi was a little helpless, her son was fine with everything else, but he was too strict with rules. If you want to blame, you can only blame the old man. Before the age of 5, the old man took his son to the front yard to raise him. He was not allowed to come to the backyard unless it was a festival. Later, when he got older, the old man sent him to the Chui family's house. Going to study in the academy, if it wasn't for entering the Imperial Academy this time, she didn't know how long it would take to see her son. "Mother, I heard that Sister Wei went to Zhuangzi outside the city, and she can't come back today. Why don't I go out of the city to see what's going on? If I really can't come back, I will accompany her in Zhuangzi one night, bring her and brother Shi back tomorrow." "How can this work? You have only been back for a while, and you have to ride out of the city again." "No." Feng refused, and gave Xie Zhihui a hard look. She is not stupid, of course she knows. Xie Zhihui went to invite the fourth child. However, the arrival of the fourth child also has its advantages. "Sister Qing has returned to Shue's house. Fourth child, you go to Shue's house tomorrow, bring more gifts, and bring Sister Qing back. I asked her second aunt to pick up this child, but she still refuses to come back." Feng's heart ached. If she hadn't really hurt the child this time, would she have been alienated from her family like this? What else to say? Mrs. Shui and Mr. Shui refused to agree. When did this mother and son take Qing's sister to heart? Speaking of it, it was her grandmother who didn't do her best and hurt the good child, but she couldn't help it. If she didn't give in, who knows how Xie Zhiwei would gossip in front of the Empress. If the Empress gets angry, it will only embarrass Sister Qing even more. She had to explain this matter clearly to Sister Qing, break it up and let Sister Qing understand that she had no other choice. "Mother, if the niece doesn't come back, don't come back. She is the daughter of the Shui family after all. Master Shui is still alive, and the members of the Shui family are not dead. Now, what happens to the niece has nothing to do with us." "You child, how can you say that? She is the only blood left by your sister. How much your sister loved you back then. She kept something delicious for you, and she wanted to give it to you when she got something good. Are you afraid you forgot all of them?" Xie Jibai said with a playful smile, "Mother, I am the youngest. My brothers and sisters are very kind to me, and I have not forgotten. When my niece was in our house, my son loved her very much, but no matter how much he loved her, she was also a member of the Shui family. There is a difference between the inside and the outside, and that is something that can't be helped. No matter what happened to Mrs. Feng, she couldn't bear to scold her son." She sighed. "Both grew up at home. As a mother, you can't see that you treat your nieces and daughters differently. Mother, why can't I write 2 words of thanks in one stroke? In the future, when these nieces and daughters leave the cabinet, when they return to their mother's house, they will have to buy a few caddies of good wine for their sons. The nieces may not be able to count on it." Xie Jibai grinned, patted the non-existing dust on the clothes, and looked at Yuan Shi. "Sister-in-law, I would like to ask Sister-in-law to arrange for someone to prepare some clothes. I'm leaving for the outside of the city. I'm afraid I won't be able to come back today. It is necessary to stay on the Zhuangzi for one night, and Miss Wei is probably not used to the things on the Zhuangzi." Yuan Shi hurriedly responded, and couldn't wait to salute Feng Shi before leaving. "If you don't leave now, when will you stay?" Xiao Shi watched helplessly. Feng Shi was so angry that his eyes almost turned white, but she could only watch helplessly as Xie Jibwa walked out the door in a cool and unrestrained way. He never took her words to heart, but the old man just gave him a look. Can frighten him like a mouse seeing a cat. This bastard, sooner or later I will be off by him. Nanny Jean would not listen to these words in her heart. For many years, Feng scolded with her front feet, and saw the fourth master with her back feet, and she was in pain for a while. She smiled and hurriedly brought a cup of fire-fighting tea to Feng's hand, said, "The old lady calmed down, as the saying goes, children are debts." Feng couldn't do anything about the fourth brother. He glanced sideways and saw Xie Zhihui sitting on the chair. "Did you call your fourth uncle here?" Ms. Xiao became anxious when she heard that. She couldn't let the old lady dislike her daughter, let alone because of Xie Zhihui, so she hurriedly asked, "Sister Hui, why did you come here with your fourth uncle?" Although Xie Zhihui doesn't have that much flirtatiousness, she's not stupid either. She knew that Feng Shi was going to trouble her, so she said unhurriedly, "If you go back to grandma, granddaughter will come to say goodbye to fourth uncle. If you meet fourth uncle on the way, let's go together coming." Anyway, the old lady would not ask the fourth uncle directly. Even if she asked, the fourth uncle would not betray her, and Xie Zhihui was not afraid. It was she who asked the maid to tell fourth uncle to bring fourth uncle here as a rescuer, and it was not she who said it. Although Feng doesn't really believe it, but this granddaughter has always been 1, and 2 is 2. When she was taught to lie when she was a child, she would say something righteous and stern. A man cannot be established without faith, and a gentleman can do what he does. What not to do, and the like. Her temperament is more polite than her grandfather, and she often kills her anger. Feng Shi also felt that he was probably confused by Xie Zhihui today, and even got into a fight with this granddaughter. Isn't this looking for anger? Thinking of this, she waved her hands impatiently. "Go, I'm tired, so I don't need to make rules." Ms. Xiao breathed a sigh of relief, and quickly got up to bless Fushan. "Since that's the case, the daughter-in-law will take Sister Hui down first, so that mother can rest well." After leaving the gate of Chunhui Hall, Mrs. Xiao scolded Xie Zhihui, "Is your fourth uncle the rescuer you brought in? Don't you know that you are an old lady? You are a real child. How is your eldest sister, and you have nothing to do with it? What's the matter? You're not afraid that your grandmother will annoy you?" After Xiao finished speaking, she knew she was wrong. Sure enough, Xie Zhihui looked at her in horror. "What is mother talking about? The eldest sister is my sister, so why has nothing to do with me?" Chapter 4. End of this chapter.